honesty and openness, no hiding, should be on the cards from day one.
Not all information about ourselves needs to be divulged.
If you're going to take an exam, you got to prepare. Start reading.
Hi everyone, my name is Bola Amure. Welcome to Wisdom for Exploit. Today I have with me two wonderful guests. Before I introduce my guests, do not forget to subscribe to receive notification for new videos and podcasts. Thank you. My guests are Fortunate Adetoro Fakbonda and Mrs. Deborah Durojaye. So Fortunate is happily married with 3 boys and also is a pastor. Fortunate's work history is diverse, encompassing roles such as cleaner, waiters, product designer, sales personnel, and environmental activist. Fortunate is driven by a strong desire to see people in third world country strive and become independent. Also, I have with me Mrs. Deborah Adewale Durojaye, who is married for over 27 years, a mother of 3, a boy and 2 wonderful girls. She is a certified project and change practitioner with over 10 years experience. She is also a former parent, council president, a coach, and a mentor. Thank you for joining me, wonderful people, on this show. Welcome this afternoon. Yeah, so this afternoon, we'll be looking at the topic healthy relationship. And this, we're going to be focusing on to disclose or not to disclose the past. So we're going to be looking at to disclose or not to disclose the past that is maybe past of what we've been through or the past life we've lived to the person we're bringing into our life. So we're going to be focusing on marriage aspect at the moment. So should I disclose my past to somebody I'm bringing into my life? So is anyone want to go for it?
Yeah, I think it's a great thing to be, if you're talking marriage, it's, as we know from a Christian point of view, a spiritual institution set aside, put together by God, which is fantastic. It's the only institution or organization that gives you a certificate of pass before you actually take the test, which is strange. You know, you get married, you get hitched, you sign a certificate, you go, yeah, we're married. But the test is yet to follow. If you look at it from an examination point of view, as a student, you can't hide behind a bad or a lack of not reading for preparation for an exam. You can't hide. So you set yourself for failure if you don't read your book, or if you don't, rehearse your lines, if you don't do all of the necessary tests to get you towards your exams. So I think, going straight to the point, I would say, if you do not come clean about your past, because if you would take an exam and goes, oh, I kind of wish I studied for that. Oh my God, I didn't realize that question would come up. I should have studied for that. That means you're saying I should have gone, if I had the chance to go back in time, I should have made preparation to make sure that was disclosed, that was searched, that was researched, and that was prepared for, and then things will have been a lot better. The result will be a lot better. If we take that application into marriage scenario, that means if you're going to be with somebody else where the party doesn't know who you are, because this is 2 worlds coming together to become one. That person's got the independent thoughts, their ways of doing things, and now you're going to have to come together and move forward in a certain direction of your, that you both agree on. However, if both are coming from a different place, or perhaps you've not decided to make an agreement, and they've not really researched themselves before they even come into the marriage, that would be disastrous. Because first you have to research who you are before you go mix or bind with somebody else.
True.
If you don't know who you are, you're not going to be ready for anybody else. You can't love yourself. You can't even love anybody else. But obviously, before you get to the point of marriage, you should have gone through the process of finding out who you are, what you're about, the reason why you're here. And then hopefully you find the like-minded person who also has gone to that position where they know who they are, they know what they're about, they're ready to move forward in a certain trajectory to go, this is the way I want to go. And you go, yes, me too. I want to go that way, because if you both go different way, you're going to rip yourself apart. So you've got to come clean, I believe, to talk about your past.
Sure.
I learned this also from my father. It was the bishop, as you know. He told my mom before he married my mom that this is what I've done, this is where I've been. Before anything happened, I followed suit. I'd done the exact same thing with my wife, because I heard my father's done it. He said exactly what he's done. Because before I got with my wife, this is what I had to do. And I had to do the same thing, which is to disclose the dark, the good, and the ugly of who you are with the person, to say, this is what I'm about. If you can still accept me, then happy days. If you can't, then you know you don't need to follow my path. Somebody else might accept him. I don't know. But whoever needs to love you will love you the whole shebang, everything. Just like Christ loved us, with all of our faults, our defects, our hidden secrets that he knows about. There should be no difference between the way Christ knows you and the way you want your partner to know you. Transparency is key. So if you're clear and crystal about your thought that, look, this is me from a Christian point of view, a sinner, I've done many wrong things. This is what I did. I went with that person, if that's what you did, I stole that in 5th grade, 10th grade, yesterday grade. You're really coming and say, this is me. Can you still accept me? And that person says, yes. Then you've got a partner who will accept you for who you are. Because should things change after you get married, they will leave you and say, well, I didn't realize you were like that. Have you ever counseled, married couple go, oh, I didn't realize you were like that. If I knew, I'd never have married you. They would talk and say things like this. And you think to yourself, oh my God, where did it all go wrong? Things went wrong simply because they didn't research who they are. And if they did, were they accepting of who they've become or where they were coming from? My wife, we're mixed. She's white, I'm Nigerian, completely different. And it took us a lot of mind melding, to know each other. But it didn't take too long because my mind was already set. I had to wait 7 years for her to catch up to me.
Wow.
And I said to her, Miss, no sex before marriage. That's how I'm raised. She was like, what? I'm like, I told her 2 weeks into that, but I knew she was my wife 2 weeks when I met her. I'd waited already 35 years of my life for her. So I could wait another 10 more years if that was what God wants me to do. I wasn't scared, but I kind of laid down the foundation to say, this is who I am. This is what I do. This is the church I go to. These are the people I'm with. Everything was up front. So there was nowhere for me to hide. So if she didn't like what I was into, she would leg it and run away. If she didn't like the family, she would leg it and run away. If she didn't like my church, she would just pack up and go. So all of those things were exposed. I had nowhere to hide. My only hiding place was with Christ. I trusted my foundation of who I am with Christ first. And then if she came in and goes, yeah, I like what I see, which is exactly what she said, funny enough. That's how it went. Things move forward. So I think honesty and openness, no hiding, should be on the cards from day one. It will safeguard who you are personally, so that you don't get drawn into something you don't want to. Because you're very upfront straight away and says, I don't do this, I don't do that. This is what I like. Someone else can't come around and start changing who you are. Otherwise, you're selling out to them just because you like them. But if you're honest and true, they will either accept it and go with you or reject you and not even bother at all. So tell them about the past. Tell them about where you are now. Tell them about where you want to be in the future.
Wow.
Wow, that's really nice. Deborah, do you have anything do you have any input to that?
I was raised with the same premise that honesty is the best policy, and transparency in a relationship is key. I remember I did that for many, many years in my marriage. My husband knew everything about me. Where I was going, who I was with, where I work, how much I earned, everything. If I'm getting my hair done, my nails done, everything. He literally knew everything. There was no hiding place for me as a person. Even conversations I have at work or with friends, I'd relay everything to him. But it just turns out that a friend of mine told me, you don't have to tell him everything, that it's not the best policy, that there's some things you need to keep to yourself. And I remember that later on in our marriage, my husband said the same thing to me, that, oh, you don't have to tell me everything. You should have your own 10% that you keep to yourself. For me, it didn't make sense, because if you're not doing something untoward, what are you hiding?
Exactly.
That's the way I've always thought about things. But when it comes to people, but my husband was someone that I've always known, even as a child. He was someone who was referred to as my mom's second son.
Wow.
So I grew up with him. I met him when I was around 7 or 9 years old.
Wow.
So we grew up together. He knows everything about me. He was counseling me on when I had a boyfriend in high school. He knew the boy who asked me out, the cards they wrote, the letters. He read everything, and he talked to me about them. So there was he knew me very well. So I didn't have to disclose anything to him before we got married. However, I watched my sister get married. I watched my brother get married. I watched other friends around me get married to people whom they did not know. And the issue of transparency was a bit tricky. There were some whom it worked for, and there were others whom it didn't, whom it backfired on.
Yeah.
But you hit the nail on the head, Brother Fortune, because you said that the key was knowing who you are. If you understand who you are, no matter who you disclose your past to, it's because you have made a decision. You resonate about who you are. You're clear about your principles. You're clear about your standpoints. You're clear about who God made you to be.
Sure.
Therefore, if you open your mouth and say, this is who I am, you know that come 100 years, you are sticking to that person. And it only changes if the person you were talking to was not paying attention. Maybe because they were too much in love, or they were passively listening, or they were thinking, oh, they're just saying, yeah, we'll talk about who we are, but they're not really taking that information in. And then, or they feel that, where some women say, oh, I'll teach my husband how to behave. I'm sure you've heard that before. Some women believe that they can teach their husband how to behave. Likewise, the woman would think that, I can teach my wife as well. So when they've disclosed who they are to their partners, the partner would still have the back of the mind that, don't worry, I'll change you. You be the kind of person I want you to be.
They change it.
They have not really paid attention to that person. You're fortunate that your wife was also almost at the same place, or she took your information seriously. And that was why you can have a serious conversation about who you are with her. And she understood you, listened to you, and respected the person that you were. Yes, it may have been hard to believe, but once you said to her the first time, and then she comes at you a second time, and you're still sticking to your principle, and the third time and the fourth time, then she knows for a fact, this is who this person is. But that's not the way life works, unfortunately. A lot of people are cagey about who they are. Life teaches us to put our best foot forward. So that's what they do when they meet someone of the opposite sex. Even in business as well. You want to big up your business. It's just something that's run in your mother's basement with virtually a candlelight and one laptop, but you're making out that you're the CEO of an organization. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, we're still even coming to that business one. Yeah, we're coming to that business one.
Yeah, they put the best foot forward to show that this is the kind of person I am, and that they're being ingenuine about themselves. They're being dishonest about who they are. But sometimes it's what the opposite person was here. That's what I found out with my friends who got married. It's what the other person wants to hear. If you're dating and you're telling your friends about the guy you're dating and you're saying, actually, he doesn't have a job at the moment, or he's a waiter somewhere, or another person comes and say, oh, my brother has a Benz and does this and does that. It could be a rented Benz. It could be his best friend's Benz. But you don't know that because he has not been honest with you. Mm-hmm. So in that honesty thing, some people can get it wrong in that the person that you're listening to, are they really being honest? Mm-hmm. Can you really hear the sincerity through their words? Mm-hmm. People think that 1 + 1 make 2. In God's calculation, is a whole person. Yeah. A person who is whole, who is complete in who they are, is the only person who really has the right to join with another person to make a relationship work. Okay. If you are not whole in who you are, you don't spend money well. You will spend drift. You have so much debt. You like the latest gear. Or, there's so many, everybody has things, drawbacks in their own lives, but there's so many things that you yourself, you haven't gotten a hold of, or you cannot even admit to yourself that you have a problem in this area, but you want your partner to see in the best light. So you put your best foot forward. And as far as you're concerned, you're being honest with yourself that, after all, this is the best part of me and I'm putting it forward. But you're hiding the bad part of you. But the person you're with should be the person to help. Iron sharpeneth iron. If that person was like-minded with you, you will sharpen each other. You will help each other out. You complete one another. And that's how you form a relationship. Your relationship doesn't become solidified at marriage. It gets solidified years later. Yeah. You grow with each other. You grow with one another until you get to a point where the person's not home. You already know where they are. You know what they're thinking. You know what you have to prepare before they come back home. You don't have to talk to each other anymore. You understand one another fully. That's where we all want to get to in our relationship. So my advice for someone who wants to spill the beans about everything is think twice. Think twice. Are you owning everything about yourself? Are you owning the good, the bad, and the ugly? And can you, in 2 weeks' time, in 2 months' time, can you still stand on those principles and say, yes, this is the kind of person that I am, and this kind of person I want you to know me to be? And secondly, the person you're entering into a relationship with, what kind of person is he? What kind of person is she? Are they the kind of person who just wants to see your best parts and not the ugly parts? Are you the kind of person who would criticize you once you open up your mouth to say, oh, this is the kind of person that I was? Should a fight happen, should something go wrong, it's the first thing they bring up. Yeah. You would know if they're that kind of person by the way they talk about their other friends, their other colleagues, their other family members. You would know. Yeah. And then I think that God gives you wisdom in order to be able to divulge what needs to be divulged. Pray about what you feel like needs being about, and just take it one step at a time. Sometimes God doesn't give us the most perfect person. It's someone who eventually will sharpen each other and get better with time. And sometimes it's just the wrong person that's in your life. Before you divulge everything, think twice. Is this kind of person that I can tell this information to? You're the kind of person who always gets jealous about every little thing. You definitely want to talk about your ex-boyfriend who works in your office right now. Do you? It's not going to help your relationship. So you have to think twice about every kind of thing you want to talk to them about. Or it's a person who has a 5-year plan to buy, own, and buy the house completely. But you know that every Saturday you like to go to shops and spend at least 100 or 150 pounds on clothes and shoes, and every weekend you're out shopping. You're not compatible, in other words. So it depends on what you want to tell the person, and depends on your level of maturity, and finally on the kind of person you're with. So think twice before you reveal.
I think with your answer, that's really wonderful, because with everything you said, there are so many questions. I want to write because I want to talk about, does transparency always build trust, and can it sometimes backfire? So transparency, when you're so transparent, because I understand something when it comes to relationship, especially when it comes to the marriage aspect. You see, there are some people, they said, okay, yes, I love this man, I love this woman I'm getting into relationship with, but this is my past. And some men cannot undo some past. Yes, it's good with Christian. We say, oh yeah, the Bible says two shall become one. So why am I hiding? Why should I hide how much I'm handing to my husband? Why should you hide what you're handing to your wife? You understand what I mean? But what happened is that some, because of what they've been through, maybe somebody is been in a other relationship and they see the way the other man treated them, and now they're going into another one. So they might be thinking that, okay, now, especially people in an abusive relationship. So people in an abusive relationship, and the first guy in their life or the first man in their life abused them seriously, and now they see another person and they say, okay, yes, even though yes, I'm a child of God, do I have to tell this person? Because people understand that when you've been to an abusive relationship and you're going into another one, they will tell you don't say everything, because the other guy will be treating you the way the other person treated you. Do you understand what I mean? So what do you have to say with that? Or is he a man that you can't bottle everything the woman said? The woman said, oh, when I was in my single age, I did this abortion, I did that abortion. Some men cannot stand it. Or have this kind of children. Some men cannot stand it. Or maybe, yes, this person you're bringing into your life, this woman had another child from that man, another child from that man, maybe 3 guys, 3 children. And now you come into that person's life, and this person is telling you, he said, okay, if I tell this man, will he be able to take it? And some man, I know, fortunately, says something that, that is not, I know sometimes it's not that when you're telling people about your past, they're not going to use it against you. But is it true that all men can bottle their wife? I think that will go to fortunate.
That's a lot of questions.
Isn't it?
If we take a look at the abuse side of things first, and then we look at transparency and the possible negative aspect of being too transparent. It's sad that we humans will put ourselves through abuse, especially if you're not connected with God on a Christian level. If you're coming from a natural perspective of just dating, where you're going out with people and you're doing it just because you want to go out with somebody, expect these things can happen. I'm not saying don't go on a date. I'm not saying don't go on christiandating.com, whatnot. Do so, but do it very carefully. In the natural sense of the world, when you go out on dates, you kiss many frogs before you can try and find close to your Prince Charming. It could take about from 10 frogs to 1,000. So it means the chances are very slim. You're going to always fall foul of somebody who's going to want to take advantage of you. My wife, she went through that process. She told me, she goes, oh, I have no clue about what men are, what they do, blah, blah, but I felt uncomfortable when I was with certain people and they asked me to come run. I just feel this vibe and I just want to escape and I'll run out. I just don't say anything and I'm out. She just runs. So she was never comfortable. She had some sort of instinct that was within her that makes her think, this is not right. Something doesn't, I just don't want to be here. And people might want to call her names like, oh, you're a little bit, very rigid, you're very easygoing. That's her protective nature, that she doesn't feel comfortable around certain people when in an isolated position. It could lead to abuse. The man wants to have a great time. She's not so sure. She could be forced to do something she really didn't want to do. It will lead to abuse. We're going to go back to what I talked about earlier, which Deborah also agreed on. Know yourself.
Yeah.
Know yourself. Know your yes, know your no. when you want to know your real self is something the Lord has talked about, who you really are. That's your real self, not just your black face, your white eyeball, your just white smiling teeth that looks nice and perfect. We're talking about the man inside.
Yeah.
Know yourself. If you know that person, you're going to say, what is best? What does God say about my conduct and my behavior? What does he say about me? How does he want me to be out there? How does he want me to shine? Where does he want me to go? How does he want me to receive people? But I'm saying this from a Christian point of view so that you can protect yourself in the long run. Before my wife Laura came to my life, there were many women around me dancing in circles, circulating, wondering, hey, dude, you've been single like forever. I was 28 years old, forever single, never got a girlfriend. But I always had women around me all the time. To some extent, people in my workplace thought I was gay. So more women came flocking to me thinking because it might be gay, I could tell you more secrets. So people did offload to me massively. And one of my friends did go through an abuse, as you talked about. She wasn't Christian. She comes from a Muslim background, and she was stuck with a man who physically abused her. She looks like one of the most beautiful women you've ever seen in your life, and you would never think in a million years such a person could be abused, but she was abused. Mm-hmm. She didn't have a voice, and she was trapped in a dangerous relationship. And she's at university trying to do a second year, third year, and it's a struggle. She couldn't find herself. She couldn't bring out the inner part of herself to say, you know what, this could cost me an eye, a leg, my life, but I am going to have to say no to this. It has to stop. And I'm going to just call it cancel for men in general and focus on my study and nothing else. She couldn't do that. Her life was so, the need for a man was overwhelming that the need to want to be free almost seems secondary. So that abusive part of man-woman relationship, it goes both ways, by the way. Psychological abuse, physical abuse, taking advantage of the person. It goes between men and women. It changes almost so against women than men. If you know yourself, you can put a stop to it. If you value yourself and say, I am worth so much in the eyes of God, why should another sub creature like a man treat me like crap? No, it shouldn't happen. I remember 2001, I went park in Edmonton, and a girl asked me out on a date, and I wasn't very comfortable about going out. So I said, I'd rather to be in a park where people can see me. I don't want to put myself in a position where people can't see me. Again, that's a protective thing where I like the world to see what I'm doing. So if I wasn't doing something right, because I know who I am, somebody would go, you know what, I saw you doing that. That was nothing. I'd be like, you know what, you're right. I'm sorry. Pray for me. Fix me, Lord. Come clean, basically. That's my line. If someone says, did you do that? If I did, I'm like, yep, done it. Like David, just roll on the floor and say, you know what, I'm really sorry. I'm bad. I'm human. Lord, forgive me. I'm really sorry. Come clean. That's me. God took me to the park. I said, I'll meet you at the park where there's open space. People can see me. People can see you. We can talk. So I'm there thinking to myself, God, what do I say to this girl? Because I'm not really interested, but I'm just trying to be nice. But how can I encourage her? Lo and behold, I sat there on the park bench trying to talk. Some of her friends turned up. I said, hey, hello. 2 girls turned up, and I was talking to them. And all of a sudden, I started talking about my thought process, my belief, my understanding about me, what makes me me, and who they are, and who they could be, and who God has made them to be. They weren't Christians. They're just teenagers, and they just wanted to know something about God. So I started talking. All of a sudden, there was more girls. I didn't realize there's about 10 girls around me.
Wow.
By the time I lifted my heads up to look around me, the only reason I looked around was because I was hearing crying, and people were whipping. I'm thinking, what's happening? Where did these people come from? I was just talking, and these girls were crying, and one of them says, would you want to come to our school to teach this? Because they don't teach things like this in our school. You should come and tell those in our school. Girls need to know exactly what you're saying. They need to know. And they're really passionate about it. I'm thinking, oh my God, what have I done? All I know is that I was just opening my heart out to say, look, truly you're somebody. You cannot be used and abused because you're somebody. Get that right. Don't follow the popular opinion that if you don't do this, you don't count. If you don't do that, you don't count. If you've not done this, you don't count. If you've not experienced that, you haven't lived. I said, that's rubbish. I said to them, if you imagine the sticky tape, sellotape, when you want to use the sellotape to stick something, if you've put it on too many surface, on the carpet, on the card box, and now you want to just use it to stick something permanently, it won't work because it's lost all its stickiness because it's been on too many surfaces. I'm like, that's the way a lot of people have been abused and used. They've been so stuck onto so many things that, oh, this is important, I'm sticking to that. Oh, that's important, I'm sticking to that. They don't have any true north in their life. There's no true focus, no real truth that they can say, that truth I will hold on to. That is north, I'm going to hold on to that. Christians generally do. But the Christians that let go of the practice of Christianity will find themselves like the very nasty sticky tapes. They've held on to too many things. They want to be this, they want to be that. They don't know who they are no more. So therefore, it's harder for them to stick. And when you can't stick, you'll be used and abused. You will be taken advantage of. There's no protection barrier around you anymore. But if you can isolate yourself and step back a bit and say to yourself, this should not be what I want. Me, what I want to be like them. I want to be like that person. No. If you can stop doing that and look slightly inwards, and I know it sounds a bit weird, slightly inwards and say, God, what did you fashion me to be? What do I need to know? How do I come across? How should I come across? Should I say something nice so that people can love me? Should I be singing so that people can praise me? Should I just stay and be still and be quiet so that you can shine out of me? And somebody will say, oh, wow, I see you. Because sometimes when you're too loud and too busy, you're just making a lot of noise. People don't see you. You're just that funny one, the joker, the popular girl, everybody's been around the corner girl, everybody's been a bike girl. You don't want to be that. But that's not what God has made you to be, the bike. No, you're a princess, someone God has made and created, for somebody. I always say to people, if you're dating so many women, you need to find out because you need to be careful because that's somebody's wife. So many wives, so many people's wives you've messed around with. You need to be careful. You can't expect God to give you a virgin when you yourself haven't lived the life of a virgin. It's not going to happen. I've got Muslim friends who are asking for things like that. I'm like, well, you 2 weeks ago, you're talking about being with that girl. Now you want to marry a virgin tomorrow. Come on, man. It doesn't work. I said, God will give his own to his own. So it happens because we don't know who they are, who we are, and what we're up for. Like we said from day one, this is what I like. This is what I want. If that person who's coming to your life doesn't exhibit what you stand for, run a mile and stand back. If you're unsure, when I met my wife, I was scared, even though I prayed for 4 years constantly non-stop for this wife to come into my life. I had a vision of who she was. I didn't really see her face. I heard her voice. But 2 weeks, I said to myself, I stopped praying. I'm like, I'm going to marry this girl. Even my friends said to me, you're marrying her. I'm like, oh my God, no. I said, no, this cannot be. I panicked. I was on the train. And I said, how can I marry somebody who's an unbeliever? She wasn't a Christian. She wasn't a Christian. And I said to myself, this cannot be. In the train station on my way to work, and I just heard that voice saying, who do you think you are to think you're any better than she is? You are saved by grace. At that point, I just froze. I'm like, oh God, I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry. Lord, I'm really sorry. I'm like, God loves this woman. I'm like, wow, I better love her too. So it goes to show God was concerned about her. So from that point on, my thought process was, she's got to get saved. That's it. If you really want to be with me, you got to understand everything I do. Know the reason why I am the way I am. And then she began to understand. She began to read, study. It wasn't forced. She just came to you naturally. If we want abuse to stop, if we want the lack of saying, oh, if I'm honest, I'm going to have something that's going to backfire and people are going to take advantage of me. if you're scared about things like that, then you're not really ready. But if you're truly ready, the abuse will stop because you're honest. God says the step of the righteous are being ordered by God. If so, that means if you're clear and transparent, it means you're in right standing. Righteous means to be in the right standing with God's will. That means not yours will, but God's will. God says, I need to be like this, so I'm going to stand. God says, I need to be like that, so I'm going to be like that. You're not doing it for anybody else. You're in right standing with God. Therefore, He's going to guide your footsteps to take you to where you need to be to have that relationship where you can work with the next person and develop and become a useful tool together.
Okay.
And that's what I believe.
Okay, because I know, because I mentioned abuse, I know you said it all, Tim, which I really understand. Deborah, I'm going to allow you to say something because I'm just processing in my head, and I was like, okay, yeah, it's good to come from a good Christian background. I know that we're taking this from the perspective of Christian background, even though sometimes when I'm doing a talk like this, I like to say, okay, what about people that are not in the Christendom? You understand? But I want to add this before Deborah, to come in. Fortunately, what about a young lady that was well-mannered at home from a Christian background, got married in the church, and at the end of the day, he entered into that relationship? I know you're saying, I do understand you that we should know who we are, isn't it? When you know who you are, you value yourself. You won't put yourself into mess. And now this is a young lady in a church doing good things for Christ. Hallelujah. Doing good, wonderful things for God. Now in the church, got married to this young believer. Maybe the guy is even in the choir or something. And at the end of the day, they got married. Unfortunately, the marriage didn't go, even though they prayed. And the God said, this is your husband. But unfortunately, the man changed and the abuse started coming in. I don't know why we're going into this direction, because I'm just saying we should disclose our past.
That's fine.
So,
absolutely.
Okay.
I hear you. First, if God says, you see, you said something really poignant, which is, if God says, this is your husband, who did God talk through to say, this is your husband?
You.
I've seen this many a times in church, where even close to home, where someone says, this is my husband, and the other one says, oh, I had a vision, this is my husband. Two people are fighting over the same man.
No.
So one of them, I'm sorry, God, you see that God lying to both of them?
No, that one is not yet.
Yeah, you understand? You have to be careful that God says. How do you say God says? How do you know God says? What do you want and what do you need? Who are you praying for? What are you praying for? We have to be careful about God said, oh, I had a vision, I saw you. Therefore, God, I think God is saying to you, you're mine. Hey, bro, no. Sister, no.
But these are the things that normally happen anyway. People,
yeah, it does.
I pray that God, because I've had a lot of story about people.
I know.
They say, you saw in my slippers, you was wearing my right one. I said, God, I don't want all those ones.
That's it.
That's it. Yeah. Okay.
It's so fundamental to let God give to you what He needs to give to you. He doesn't give you the whole picture. I was saying this not long ago at church. God gives to us in parts. For we know in parts, we see in parts.
Yeah.
You don't see the whole picture. It means carefully you take what you've been given, you store them, and you put them together like a jigsaw. And then picture. I'm telling you, when I saw my wife 2 years before I met her, in short, the first member of my family that I saw was my son, my youngest son, whom I saw in 1998. I saw my wife in 2001. I met her in 2002. So it's completely different things. So when she sat next to me, I did not even pay any attention to her. She's white lady from God knows where. I wasn't even interested in anybody. But she sat next to me until she opened her mouth and spoke. It is when she spoke, the words she said were beyond her. But I heard this voice before. And I had to say to myself, oh my God, it's what she said, not what she looked like. There were 1,001 people that looked like her in a TV studio. So it didn't really bother me. It's what she stood for in an open forum. The word of God says, if you stand for me, I will stand for you. If you stand in this truth and defend the truth of God's honor, it goes, I'll remember you. If you are not ashamed of me, I will not be ashamed of you either. Imagine somebody who's not a Christian now sits up in the conference table of a TV station and goes, I don't believe that. I think this is this is that, this is that. And then I'm like, what? I think this person is not real. You're not from London. You're not around here. And I looked at him thinking, sorry, but where are you? Who are you? And where are you from? I had to ask. And little did I know it was the very same lady I'd seen 2 years earlier in a dream. I did not know. I could say I am blessed, I'm visioned, I can see this, I can see that. It's got nothing to do with me. I took myself out of that picture. Let God be the guide. God will be the one to open your ears when it's time for you to hear him. Mind you, my wife said that once. He opened the door to us talking. Thereafter, she has to come to Christ and learn the real wisdom. What she did is that the Holy Spirit came on her, not necessarily in her, came on her to utter what she needed to utter. But then Holy Spirit was gone. And he says, talk to her. I am scared of women. So therefore, I don't really talk to women. I don't chase after them. I mind my own business. So what I'm trying to say is, if they're praying, saying, this is my vision I had, this one's for me, I pray God give this to me, and now the relationship falling apart, you need to ask yourself very carefully, were you looking at the man's car? Were you looking at the man's look? What were you really looking at before you get into that relationship? If you truly love that person, you should have done your investigation before you got married. And you should at least spend some time to go through marriage counseling, wherever you call it, before you go separate ways.
Sure.
Jesus was not a big fan of divorce. It was only given to people who are just covetous to see some other person, because women were not counted as anything back in the days of Moses. The laws was created for them, because if you didn't cook right, back in the old days, I'm kidding you not, in the time of Moses, if you made the wrong porridge in the wrong yam went inside, a man can divorce you for that. I don't believe it. Any little thing you do wrong, a man could legally divorce you back in the days of Moses. That's ridiculous. But guess what? We're not too far from that in this day and age.
Yeah.
So what the man who then says, oh, you know what? Thanks for the lovely time. I now want to go off and I don't want to be with you no more. What were you looking at before you jump in the first place? What was that love based on? What was the foundation for your relationship? I had to wait 7 years for my wife to go, I think she's ready. And you know, my wife said to me, you made me wait 7 years. I'm like, I needed to know you're ready. In Yoruba, people who use Yoruba say, oh, kotiji, you know, it means it's not ready. She's not cooked yet, or it's not cooked yet. Therefore, don't touch the meat. Let the meat cook before you touch the meat. Basically, is it ready? Are you personally ready? And are they ready? Can you see? Don't say, oh my God, they're my husband, my wife, I'm jumping on, I'm grabbing onto them. Are they ready? Are they in the right frame of mind? So you're on a long journey. You're going to get your pass certificate, but you're yet to take the exams.
Okay.
So therefore, if you have marriage counseling before you got married, or some sort of marriage preparation course, it will help you to discover who you are.
And to be able to disclose, isn't it?
So all of this vision, I saw you carrying the slippers, man, run away from him. Run away from him. Please don't fall for that. God will be your guide. And whether they're saved or unsaved, you've got to know you. Bottom line.
That's it. Thank you very much for that info. Okay, I think Deborah want to say something. I know we're deviating a little bit from this topic, and I really want us to focus on this disclosure. Sorry, Deborah, go on.
A lot of people that claim to be Christians are not really Christians.
Sure.
They're only Christians in word, not in deed, or their actions either. Or they're religious in their actions and their practices, and they are not Christians, or they are church groupies, people who go to church to be seen or identified with being a Christian or being in church, but Christ is not in them. Until Christ is formed in them, then they can claim to be Christians. So when you get a guy or a girl that says that God said, and like you said, two guys are saying God said about the same girl, is that God is lying to one? Or both of them, neither of them heard from Christ. But so many people sit in church. They keep the church pews warm. That's all they do. Their lives resemble nothing like Christ. They are very religious. They say the right words. They quote the right scriptures too, but they don't have Christ in them. I don't want this to be only about Christendom, because I know I don't want to put some people off. I want to keep this practical. And I want to help people understand that even if you're not a Christian yet, or you date someone who's not a Christian, there are still ways you can go about this. One, the most important thing is about knowing yourself. And I mean, truly, truly understanding who you are. The principles you stand for, you will not fall for. Once you know who you are, everything else falls in place. But there's also the issue of, what are you disclosing? You mentioned the woman who has 3 kids from 3 different guys. There's a gravity of information that no matter what has to be disclosed.
Sure.
If I know a friend of ours dated this girl for, I think, about 7 or 8 years. They even lived together as well. But the girl was always very cagey whenever she called home. She was from Trinidad. Until, I think they've been together for like 7 or 8 years. It was at the end of that period that the guy found out that she had a child back home, living with her mother. That she'd been sending money to that child. Each time she calls and she goes to hide to talk, she'd been talking to her child back in Trinidad, and he didn't know anything. This is a deal breaker when it comes to relationship. It is a deal breaker. You cannot hide a previous child in a relationship either way. You cannot hide debt, serious debt in a relationship. You can't. You cannot hide if you're an orphan. Some people who don't have parents, or maybe a neighbor raised you, you lived with your neighbor, your auntie, or something like that. Yes, I did date a guy in high school who used to tell me that my mom. It was after we broke up that I found out that the woman's not his mom, that's his aunt. He just lives with his aunt. I felt like a fool.
Wow.
There's some things that are a deal breaker when you go into a relationship that you cannot but reveal, no matter what. And if you think that you're not going to be accepted because you have this, then you don't have any reason, you don't have any business being in a relationship to begin with. I have 3 kids from 3 different guys, but the guy I'm dating wants to have kids with me and wants them to be his kids. You know, you have an idea that he may not accept these other kids that you have. What are you doing? You can't hide that. He's going to know. So there's certain things that you cannot and must not hide in a relationship, but you have to have reached a point in your relationship in order to disclose that. If you're just dating, someone asks you on a date, oh, let's go to the movies or something. It's not at the movies I tell them, oh, sorry, I have 3 kids by 3 guys. Too much information. Too much information. You have to, exactly. You have to know the timing and understand where your relationship is heading down to. Everything you do in life comes by steps. You have steps that you need to follow when it comes to relationship before you start opening your mouth and saying things to people. So you just, it's just a dating thing. You're not even serious about each other. Why disclose? It's none of their business. But you begin to see yourself forming a closer relationship with this person. You now want a bond with this person, or this person wants a bond with you, and you are worried that, oh, I have something in my past that could be an issue. Wait, watch, and pray. Then, if you feel like, okay, I think I can no longer hold this back, I think this person needs to know, then you can now say, okay, I think you need to know this about me. Because there's not all information about ourselves needs to be divulged. Just like the example Brother Fortune said about the sticky tape. Yes, you can't go around talking about yourself to every person that you date. It kind of lessens your value after a while. There's some things you have to hold back to yourself to hold your dignity and your pride as a person until you now meet that right person for you. And somehow you will know in your knower, like some people say, you will know inside of you who this person is. And yes, Before you start saying, I think I know that person's for me, test every spirit. That's what the Bible says. We should test every spirit. Am I looking at this person because I feel that they can look after me? Am I looking at this person because he's good looking? Or popular with the girls? Or if I take him out, all the other girls will be jealous of me? What is it about this guy that is pulling you to him? Or likewise the guy to the girl? Because sometimes we let such artificial or superficial judgments cloud our thinking and we start to say we're hearing from God. Just because we're drawn to that person to that extent.
Yeah.
Okay.
You need to start peeling the onions and then asking yourself the right questions. And it really takes a mature person to do this. An immature person will not do this. They'll be carried away by the wind of doctrine. They'll be carried away by the looks, by the cars, by the friends they have, by the clubs they go to, by the people they're associated with, by the kind of clout they will get by holding this person on their arm. They'll be carried away by such things, and nothing else will matter. Only that voice in their head that's telling them, this person, it will raise my level. And that's what they all go for. And then they'll open their mouth and say things that they shouldn't say about themselves, but that need not to be said about themselves. That's what turns around and say, I was only dating you, or thinking to themselves, I was only dating you. I'm not ready to take it serious or take it further. And next thing they know, they're telling all their friends about your past. You've got to test the waters. Don't get carried away by looks, by artificial, superficial information or things about this person or who that person is before you start opening your mouth. Whether you're a Christian or not, this is just practical living. You need to know who they are. And not every person knows or understands the kind of person they are themselves. Because once you have that maturity in yourself, there's very little anyone can do about you. I heard someone say that when you get to be as good as you are at your job, people will accept your bad attitude. You know, some people who are so good at their jobs but so arrogant, you can't get along with them.
Exactly.
But no, everybody will. They don't care what you're asking. They will pay your price because they know you're good. You get to that point when you know yourself. The person who needs to be with you will be the one making concessions to be with you. When you get to that point in your life. And that is how we all need to live. Whether you're a Christian or not a non-believer, you need to know yourself, understand who you are, value who you are, before you now start to treat other people or entertain relationships in your life. Once that happens, when the person comes, you'll be able to see properly if it's the look, if it's the money, if it's the clout, whatever it is that is drawing you to that person, you eventually get to know. And you either censor yourself, stop it, or you decide, I want to fool myself and carry on. And then 6 years down the line, you're having fights.
I agree with you. My wife was like that. My wife said to me, there are not many men like you. I'm like, no, I'm special. What can I say? But I say, if you go to the Christian, you might find it. Not be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised, but you will find out there are a lot more people like me out there, because her perspective was that the way she saw the world, because she's in the world, she saw men just don't do this. They don't have standard like this, or they don't behave. They will take advantage at any given opportunity. I said, well, not every man does that, and not every man will do that too. So it's about, it's strange. Sometimes I never thought I would fall in love with somebody who's not Christian. I never saw that, but my prayer has always been, God, I never pray for a girlfriend. I just pray for a wife. I'm like, Lord, find me my wife, wherever she might be, north, west, south. She might be in Korea. I don't care. Just bring us together. That's your will and your purpose. And today, my wife is being the one who's taking every rubbish out of my sticky tape to make me better, stickier, a better human, a better person, and got the best out of me. But I never saw that. I just try to be obedient. A relationship is not an easy one. 35, I would take 35 years to be married to my wife, or, lived, I'll tell you this, sister, you're on point when you talk about just looking at what it is that you bring to the table in terms of what you're looking for in that person. You know, such as, are you looking for the money? Are you looking for the looks? Are you looking for integrity? What is the important things to you? Whether you're Christian or not, there must be something that draws you to that person, and vice versa.
Yeah.
You know, if the exchange is just based on materials, you don't. But if there's something deeper, does somebody say, "Oh man, you remind me of my grandma," that might not be a bad thing. That could be because she's so kind. She will go the distance. She will pray endlessly for you. She will give for you. She's a giver. She doesn't take, she will just give. Maybe that's one of the reasons they're drawn to that person. You know, you could fall in love with anybody. You could fall in love with, in short, we should fall in love with everybody. That's God intimacy.
Yeah,
that intimacy. But if that person who sees you because of your good looks don't really become intimate with you, intimate doesn't mean sexual, it means intimacy. That means see my heart, see me on the inside.
Right.
If they can't see you, they will only see the exterior. Oh, isn't she beautiful? That beauty will fade, and then you'll be like, I need another one fast. I'm out of here. You know, it's
you know what? I'll give my example.
That person never saw the inside. You know, it's so they've got to start seeing deeper, whether they're Christian or not. But most of the time in the world, hair extension, fake eyelashes, fake nails, by the time they remove everything, you'll be like, oh my God, who is this? Help, I'm out of here. But if that person really, truly did come as they were, and the person was able to see into them, there's a foundation. They can build on a really strong foundation and begin to move forward, because the meeting wasn't based on the artificial or superficial look which they saw in the first place. It was based on common grounds, on a strong belief and understanding. And those things can be a good foundation to build a relationship, even if you weren't Christian. If you were Christian, wow, what a blessing, what a plus. It's a plus plus. You got good foundation, common grounds. You're not looking at the exterior stuff. You're looking inwardly, say, what can we do? How can we be of service? What can we do to serve others? Wow, your life, it's exactly what Christ is looking for. Christ didn't come on the golden throne. He came on a donkey. He didn't come so that people can serve him. He came to serve others. If that was the basis of a relationship, what a great start for a fantastic relationship for the future.
Okay, based on what you said, so does it mean that because, yes, we got this basis, we're children of God, which is a plus plus, which I'm happy about, because which is very good. Hallelujah. What is it that when we now said, okay, yes, I've got this, we're good, we're children of God, this is me, this is my past has been rotting. Do you think now that will comprehend what you just said, that the person say, okay, because we're both children of God, we're bubbling in the Lord, now this is my past, I'm disclosing my past, and the man say, yes, because we're children of God, Jesus forgive us our sins. So does it mean that it's going to come into read?
I think I'm not so sure what the question is.
Okay, the question is, we said you're talking about relationship now, that because when you know yourself, isn't it?
Right.
And the person you're coming in now discover themselves, everything is good. And now when they're Christian, it's plus, plus, plus.
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking that I hope we're not trying to deviate from this particular question. No. Should we disclose our past? So based on that, because yes, we're wonderful people, we're wonderful brothers and sisters, Christians, and now Christ has died for us. We all know that, and now we bring our past out, and it's not something else in some relationship. Because I've seen these, we're both wonderful child of God doing great things in the kingdom, and now we're disclosing our past, and it's an issue for either the woman or the man.
That means they haven't been at the right place. That person hasn't
they're not at the right place in the relationship yet for that to happen.
They're not talking now that they're in marriage.
Well, I'll tell you what, when imagine you're doing a business deal, you go sign a contract. Yeah, your lawyers will read through the contract, the other party will read through the contract. There is no way you will sign anything until both parties have gone through that small fine print inside the contract. I read, I understood, I agree, and therefore I sign. The same goes to real life issue, personal. If you truly read your contract as a Christian, that means you're truthful to yourself. That I know what I'm getting into. There is no way you're going to have issues going down. Like I said, if you're going to take an exam, you got to prepare, start reading. But because you've done the reading, you can confidently go into the exam. Otherwise, it is when you haven't done your homework, you haven't done any reading, and the exam is here, you're thinking, oh my God, please pray for me. Oh, Father in heaven. Father in heaven ain't going to come down to help you. Son, you will never prepare for this exam. There is no miracle.
Thank you for that info.
You're talking about are not ready for marriage yet.
Okay,
Yeah,
let me tell you. No, I'm talking about marriage now. We're talking about chronic believer, because there is no sex before marriage. Yeah, Hebrew 13, isn't it? Said marriage is honorable in all, but the bed on the fire. I'm gonna give you guys an example, and I want you to give me, because we're talking about should we disclose our past, isn't it, in our relationship?
Yeah.
And which is very good. And because when you are going into marriage, you really need to tell the person before you tie the knot. Yeah. A lady, this story is from a chronic Christian background. They're both, okay, let me just mention, is that I don't want to mention because this is going to go on hell. I mean, this is a public something. So what happened is that this particular lady has no breasts. And it did in courtship, it didn't mention that to the partner. I mean, to the husband to be. So it was on the wedding night that the husband now detected that this lady doesn't have it. So how do you tackle that? Now the lady refused to disclose his past.
Well, it goes back to what Sister Deborah said, being upfront before you go deeper into a relationship. You're leading somebody down the garden path, you've got to be honest. That's what we talked about.
There are things that you cannot but be honest about. Yeah. That's what I was saying. Yeah. There are things that are pertinent to your relationship. She chose to lie about it or not to disclose it. And that, yes, she should be done
will hurt.
Whatever consequence that comes her way, she has to own it, because she had a choice.
Yeah.
But she chose not to disclose.
I agree.
If it was just something about a scar on her body, that's fine. I mean, it's not like the olden day China, where if you want to marry a prince or a king or whatever, if you have a scar on your body, you are not qualified to marry the king. But nowadays, that's not a problem. So you have a scar on your body, you don't tell your partner about it, or maybe a scar that goes from chest all the way down because you fell down and they had to do open heart surgery for you. But you never let them see that or told them about it, and then when they discover that, that's not a game changer. No, it's just a scar. But however, I don't have breasts.
Okay,
or I don't have a womb. It's an issue.
I want us to go into the business part, so maybe we might have to use that as a part 2 of this discussion. So anyway, guys, thank you so much. You've been a wonderful, and I like that contribution. And I really enjoyed this wonderful topic. And I know we're still going to bring more topics as well that we're going to come together and dig into it. Because I can see you guys are very loaded when it comes to marriage and relationship, isn't it? Yeah, you can't be this much in relationship, 27 years, isn't it? I'm going to be 20 years in March. How about you? Fortunate?
Oh, I'll be 15 years.
Oh, you're still a baby. Anyway, not baby. 15 years is a great experience. So thank you so much. I really appreciate you guys. And it's been a wonderful time to host you. Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much.